Okay, this is webinar number 2, a brief one this time, picking up where I left off on Photoshop. We have now an image that we wanted to post on the internet, but as I mentioned in the last webinar, you need to use Dreamweaver for the very last part of that. So, if you were creating a brand new website in Dreamweaver, first of all, I want to show you. You would open up the Dreamweaver software. This is the screen you're going to see when you first open the software. And you're going to want to click on Dreamweaver Site. Name your site, whatever you want. So we'll call this Test Site 1. And tell it, you're going to tell Dreamweaver where on your local computer you're going to store that information. So this is actually the leftover information for where my current website is stored on my laptop. But if we were to create a new folder, we could just call this Test Site 1 Directory, or something to that effect. Then you're going to need some information from your web hosting provider. So in this case, I use a company called IX Web Hosting right now. You could actually, I believe you can host directly through Wix at this point. You could choose any of a number of hundreds of other hosting companies. They all will charge you something around $10 a month or less to host for very basic services, and then the prices go up from there depending on what you want. So once you've created the site on your local drive, you're going to have to tell Dreamweaver where to find your web host out in the internet. So to do that, you're going to go to Servers and click on Add New Server, and you're going to type in the server name here. So maybe in my case we'll call this something like IX Hosting Server. And the FTP address is going to be something like ftp.jeremyallenwoods.com. It's hard to say. And then you'll have a username, jwood7, and you'll have some kind of password that you've created with your web hosting provider. And then you'll save that information. The hosting director, the hosting company may give you a root directory that you need to send information to. So that basically is saying on their FTP website, there's a folder called your website, and so they in this case, since we called this test. I think we called this thing Test Site 1. So maybe the hosting company would have also told you that your folder is called Test Site 1. Or this, sorry, this is the overall URL, and then within that, they may have told you something like Test Site 1. Fill out this information according to what your FTP hosting, your web hosting company gives you. You can't connect to the internet and publish things unless you have this information. But it's not something you know off the top of your head. It's details that your hosting company will give you once you've signed up for hosting you've chosen a company and signed up for hosting. So after you've done all that, you will eventually have a site which looks like this. So right now this is my personal website. That's where it's hosted. Here's the server information, and that's all you really need to get started. So you'll notice here this is just a list of all the files that are in my local folder for my website. And if I want to create a new file, and I forgot to turn my phones off in the. Hello? This is he. Okay, point of learning. Make sure to turn off cell phones before recording a webinar. So anyway, this is what the site will look like. And then what we said was we wanted to have we wanted to take that image that we created in the Photoshop webinar and post it to the internet. So the way I did that was actually open up any of a number of the web pages that I currently have saved, and I simply took the information that was currently in that page and deleted it, and instead I inserted an image, and that file that we created, I actually went in and saved it. You're going to have to take the image file and save it in the same folder where the rest of your website information is on your local drive. So then you can go on in and grab that image and put it in the page. And now, of course, this is too big. That's because I pulled up the JPEG instead of the PNG file. The PNG file that we created actually has no background, and I remembered when I saved that file in Photoshop that we actually need to that you need to designate the size of the file, otherwise it's going to appear too big when you create it in Dreamweaver. So let's close that page and start over. So we're going to open up any random page that we've already gotten saved, and if you didn't have a website already, you can just create a new page. I usually jumpstart that process by just copying an existing page and using the design, and then starting to edit it to make it my own. It saves some time in designing the entire page. However, you certainly can. If I do a separate Dreamweaver webinar on all the rest of the features of Dreamweaver, I can explain to you how you could design your own pages instead of using Wix. But that's a future webinar. What you need to know right now is just how to publish that image that we created in Photoshop. So we're going to go in here again to insert image, but we do not want the JPEG file. We want the PNG file, and we want it in the right size. So hopefully that is going to, yes, that brings us the image that we wanted in the right size, and it has no background. So the only thing that's brought in the image is the things that we put in it, but it doesn't have any foundation background image, so that that doesn't then paste over the color scheme of the website. So once we've done that, we're going to save this as a separate page name. I think I called it, yes, customeracquisition.htm. Cancel that. So I went ahead and saved that already before this webinar. So if we go in, and then the last thing you need to do to get it published to the web is highlight whatever page it was that you edited. Whatever content it is that you edited on the local site, you need to highlight it here in this window to the lower right-hand side. And then just click on this arrow that says Put Files to Remote Server. And Dreamweaver already has, you're going to say yes to the dependent files. That will go ahead and take the image and all of the color samples and the image files for the logo, all of the files that are referenced in your page, which actually are not in the page itself, but are files which are referenced by HTML code. If you say include attached files, then it will go ahead and pull in and publish all of the files that you have associated with the page, not just the page itself. And then that's it. You've got your website up in the internet. Or at least you've got the image that you wanted to move up to a page to finish the story that I started with the Photoshop webinar. You've got that published. If you are creating an entirely new website, you don't have to actually upload each individual file. You can just click on this synchronize button here, and that will actually synchronize all files that you have, all the files that you have edited on your local drive since the last time you synchronized the websites. It will upload all of them and replace anything that is out of date with the new files on your site. So when you're editing an entire site in Dreamweaver, you're going to want to sync the site rather than simply uploading individual pages. If you are making edits to an existing page and you're just adding or existing website, and you're just adding a page or two, or you're adding a few extra images, or editing just 1 or 2 pages, then all you really need to do is upload the edited pages rather than synchronizing the whole site. That'll do it for the brief. Now it's not so brief because I had a couple of hiccups in the webinar, but that'll do it for the brief, relatively brief webinar on Dreamweaver, and at least how to use this well enough to get individual pages up into the internet, and how to publish, how to edit an existing site to add content to it, such as the image that we created in Photoshop. So that's the end for webinar number 2. Next up is my description of how to use Wix. That's coming soon.